Sunday marks the 50th anniversary of the landmark Roe v. Wade, the U.S. Supreme Court decision that made abortion rights the law of the land. The ruling stood for 49 years until the Supreme Court overturned the ruling last summer. Anti-abortion activists are taking to the streets for the annual March for Life in Washington, D.C. today, the very first march since Roe was overturned. Willie James Inman is outside the Supreme Court with our story.
The annual March for Life is taking place for the first time since the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade.
The 50th March for Life, the first post-Roe March for Life.
Protesters on both sides say the fight over rights is not over. It's just simply switched from the courts to Congress and state legislatures.
The next phase now begins, and that's what this year's march is all about. The next steps in a post-Roe era.
Marchers are adding a stop this year, walking by the U.S. Capitol, where their abortion rights debate is ongoing.
The only way to restore the protections of Roe is for Congress to pass a national law codifying the right to choose.
But with Congress divided, the most notable fights are taking place in the states. 22 states have already enacted full or partial abortion bans, although some of those have been struck down in the courts. On the other hand, 21 states have enshrined abortion rights into law.
Well, just over a month before the official Dobbs versus Jackson decision was released overturning Roe v. Wade, a draft of the decision was leaked to the public. 8 months, 126 formal interviews, a 23-page report later, the Supreme Court says it failed to identify who leaked that draft. Now, the report was released by the court yesterday. What it does tell us is that the court's policies on information security are outdated. It seems clear the courts will tighten their procedures. The report says the investigation isn't over, but it is, in fact, winding down. Now, when the SCOTUS decision became official in June, WFMY News 2 spoke to folks on both sides of the abortion issue. Abortion rights activists expressed their frustration, focusing on the future.
No matter what happens, folks like abortion funds, independent clinics, reproductive justice organizers have their backs. We're here to stay forever, with or without Roe v. Wade, with or without legal abortion access. We will make sure that people can access health care no matter what.
Anti-abortion grounds celebrated the Supreme Court decision. North Carolina Values Coalition said it fought for this change for 11 years.
We're very excited that the court has overturned Roe versus Wade as well as Casey versus Planned Parenthood. But we have a lot of work to do in North Carolina, and it's going to increase our workload because we want to make sure that we protect the unborn babies in North Carolina.
All right, so how did we get here? The Supreme Court decided on Roe v. Wade nearly 50 years ago in 1972. Jane Roe and Henry Wade put this case, based in Texas, into the national spotlight. WFMY News 2's Chad Silber shares what we know about the two, starting with Jane Roe.
Her real name was Norma McCorvey, a Dallas County resident who was pregnant and wanted an abortion. McCorvey had 2 kids she was not raising at the time. Her attorneys, Sarah Weddington and Linda Coffey, were looking to challenge Texas's abortion laws. When 3 federal judges in Dallas ruled that the state's law banning abortion was unconstitutional, Coffey told our sister station in Dallas that women would now have more options. Here's a portion of that interview in 1970, courtesy of the Jones Film Collection at SMU.
She can have an abortion, and assuming that she has it in Texas, she need no longer suffer any kind of guilt feeling.
On the other side was this man, Henry Wade, a long-standing district attorney in Dallas. During his tenure, Wade was extensively involved in the Kennedy assassination investigation as Roe v. Wade made its way to the courts. Jane Roe gave birth to her 3rd child and gave her baby up for adoption. It took 3 years of trials for the case to reach the Supreme Court.
The story then takes an interesting turn. Roe changed her stance on abortion years later and took part in the anti-abortion movement. She died 5 years ago. Well, right now, abortion is legal in North Carolina up until 20 weeks of pregnancy. The state's top Republican legislative leaders have said they plan to consider additional abortion decisions. Democratic Governor Roy Cooper is an abortion rights supporter who has vetoed past restriction attempts, but his veto power was weakened with GOP legislative seats gained in November.